Welcome back to the yard where faith and sports collide. We're here once again with Stanford wide receiver slash kicker, my son, Diego Preciado. Diego, thank you so much, man.
Of course, yeah. Awesome to be here.
I really appreciate you joining us here today. Hey, this is my favorite part of the show, Diego.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we talk about how faith and sports have collided in your world. So tell me how faith and sports has been a part of your world and how they've collided.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but one of the things that was always pushed into me in terms of when I had communicated with you that I wanted to play football and I wanted to play at Stanford, you would always tell me, you know, how difficult it's going to be. And the main thing that you were trying to stress is not that you can't do it, but it's that you can't do it on your own. So I think one of the biggest components of me dreaming to play at Stanford was also believing enough that God would help me get there and that I can't do it on my own.
Yeah.
So I think before that, though, or after that actually, was my junior year. We talked about this as well, breaking my ankle. That hurt a lot because, like we said, junior year is really the time where your offers start to roll in, where you kind of make a name for yourself as a player, and then you build up hype for yourself for your senior year. But for me, I lost the entirety of the second half of that season, and it really hurt me because I couldn't be the guy. So much of my identity was in me as a football player at that time, and it was like, what do I do now? Like, I'm stuck in a cast, limping around campus on these crutches, and I just felt stupid because people only really viewed me as the football kid, and I only viewed myself as the football kid. So having that completely removed from my life was difficult because I had to find, like, what am I going to do now? What's my pastime? And I knew it wasn't a long-term thing, but it hurt in that moment a lot.
Sure.
So one of the big things during that was I had always attended the Bible studies after practices, but during that time I had more time to pour into the Bible studies and actually started leading them. So starting my junior year, I started leading Bible studies after the football practices. It was probably 15, 20 guys we started with, probably ended with 10 to 15 guys. Kids came when they can, but I really thought that I did my best to really pour into other people during that time rather than to sit and like, my season's gone.
Yeah.
I can't do anything. My ankle's broken.
Yeah.
It was more, okay, you know what? My part of this season is done. What can I do now to shift my focus to other people? And it took me a few weeks to get there because at first it was like, oh, my team's done. I'm the star player, blah, blah, blah. I should be playing this role and whatever. But it really gave me the opportunity to take my eyes off of myself and say, how can I help my team? I'm going to be the best water boy I can be. I'm going to start leading these Bible studies. I'm going to, engage with players off the field more. I'm going to check in on my teammates and see how they're doing. So I think that time really gave me a lot of time to take my eyes off myself and stop having, that pity for myself and staying in that and give me an opportunity to look into other people and see how I can pour into them.
Yeah, that's very cool that you learned that early on. That not to place your identity in sports.
Right.
And you're in a great spot right now. I mean, doing your dream, playing football at Stanford and studying at Stanford, but that's going to fade away,
Right.
And sports are going to fade away. And who knows, maybe the Lord blesses you and you have some amazing professional career. Chances are not likely,
Right, yeah.
but it can happen, but that fades away too. But what doesn't fade away is those lessons or your relationship with the Lord that if you learn those lessons now of your identity being a child of God as opposed to something that'll fade away,
Right.
it saves a lot of pain on the back end. So tell me how you handle some of the temptations there. I know while I was playing football at San Diego State, everything was available.
Right.
Alcohol, drugs, ladies, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And at that time, San Diego State in 1990, my freshman year, Diego, was voted by Playboy the #1 party school in the nation. So there was a lot of partying available. And so how do you balance all those temptations of all those things with being a guy committed to living for God?
Right. Well, first and foremost, I'm busy. I took a lot of classes. This last quarter before the end of my freshman year, I had 20 units. So I was staying pretty busy. And I've always been a guy who'd rather kind of be by himself and doing things he likes rather than to go out and do things. That's just kind of how I'm built. So in terms of like drugs and parties, that's never been a huge temptation in my life. Certainly being at college was a little different because it's so much more accessible. It's not like, hey, Dad and Mom, can I go to this party? It's if I want to go, I just have to step out of my dorm and go over there. So I think in terms of that's just first and foremost. It's not a huge issue in terms of the partying and the drugs. But the few parties that I have attended, usually I'm just there to kind of make sure my guys are doing okay. Like for one of the parties, I served as what's called a host, and that was the guys who they entrust in taking players who are visiting the campus and taking them to a party. So it was making sure that kid, stays safe, make sure you get him there safely, you get him home safely. Another component is, having guys either at school or guys at home who I can check in with. I have like 2 or 3 pretty close buddies who I check in with pretty often, tell them how I'm doing in life, tell them what I'm struggling with, and having them kind of as accountability partners to know that, hey, I messed up here, right? I messed up here, or I'm struggling with this, or, even if it's just like I miss my family. Like it's someone you can go to and tell them what's happening, because it's really difficult to go through certain things or to be struggling with certain things and not be able to tell people.
Yeah.
So in college, one of the things I was struggling with first is I felt like I was on my own. Just, I don't have too many friends there because I'm brand new. Showed up a little late as a preferred walk-on. My report date was almost like a month later than everyone else. So they were kind of all in go mode, and I was just figuring it out along the way. Not a big partier, so I didn't hang out with too many guys at parties just because, it was new to me. So it was tough being there by myself for a long time. So I had to tell my buddies, like, hey, I'm struggling. Like, I'm by myself. I just need someone to talk to. I need someone to, keep updated, and just to tell them, like, I want you guys to keep me accountable, and I want to be able to keep you guys accountable too. But I think those are kind of the 2 big things where, one, I'm built a little different. So in terms of like having trouble going out and doing stuff, it's never been that big of an issue. But it's really just staying, having people who can hold you accountable, especially for me. So those are kind of the 2 things that come to mind first.
Do you feel you're missing out on like all this fun opportunity that those things provide, or do you feel like, nah, it's this decision, this is the much better decision? Like, what goes through your mind as you're not engaging in some of those things?
Right. Well, I've tried to find more of a happy medium as of late, because I can still go there and have fun and hang out with my guys and not do all the same thing that everyone else at the party is doing. But at first I was like, yeah, I'm missing out. Everybody I know is there. I'm alone playing Star Wars Battlefront, like on a Friday night, like
nerd.
Just there, like, oh, I got 100 kills.
I want to be Han Solo tonight. Like, yeah, so you put the Solo in Han Solo.
Oh gosh. But yeah, so at first it was just like I felt like I was missing out on so much.
Yeah.
And then I just thought about it more, and just I'm definitely missing out on spending the quality times with my guys who are there.
Yeah.
That's why I try to find more of a happy medium, like I'm saying now, where I can go and I can hang out. I just don't have to do the same thing. Not necessarily that my teammates are doing, but everyone at the party is doing. So yeah, I was just trying to find a balance. I don't think, in terms of not doing drugs and engaging in drinking alcohol and stuff like that, I know I'm not missing anything, because I've always been a guy who likes being in control. I like I like being able to determine what I'm doing. So I think, the use of alcohol and drugs and stuff like that is something that takes away from that. So that's always intrinsically been something that I've had, like, what's what I'm looking for? Like, I've had reservations against that automatically, just because I don't know how I'd feel, I don't know how I'd act, and that makes me very nervous. But like I said, tried finding like a healthy medium where now I can go and hang out with guys. I'll bring my Switch. I don't know if you guys know what a Nintendo Switch is, but it's like a little portable gaming device. One of my favorite games on there is Smash Bros. And Mario Party. So I'll bring that to parties just to kind of provide an alternative for guys who are like me, who don't necessarily want to drink or smoke, but would still want to be there with other people. So that's something I've done a lot as of late. That's been pretty fun, and it's nicer than just being by yourself. But it's also nicer than just doing exactly what everyone else is doing.
I used a similar tactic, Diego. Let's go back to 1990.
Yeah.
The Game Boy was released.
Yeah.
And I used to take the Game Boy everywhere, and I used to play Tetris. And I'm still awesome at Tetris. But so much where the guys would call me Game Boy. They're out drinking and partying in the hotel rooms, and I'm there on my Game Boy working on level 9.5 with Tetris. But yeah, it was a good tool to kind of let me be engaged, because you don't want to isolate.
Exactly. Yeah.
But certainly it gave me an activity to do while other stuff was going on.
Right.
Keep me engaged in something that was pretty benign.
Right.
And fun. And frankly, I think I could go pro at Tetris. I think, honestly, I think I'm one of the at least top 1% Tetris players in the world.
Because you've been playing, what, like 20, 25 years?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, my dad has like an super old Game Boy that sits on his nightstand. also finds its way into the bathroom sometimes. So we won't see him for like an hour at a time. And I just hear I'm like, oh, there he is. That's where he's at. So
Jefferson, you know where I got the Tetris from? When I was a teacher over 20 years ago, this kid would bring in his Game Boy, and I loved this Game Boy that I had when I was in college football, but I lost it. And I told him, look, stop playing the Game Boy, and if you bring it in again, I'm going to take it from you. And I was just hoping, hoping and praying he'd bring it in again. And the kid brought it in again, and I took it from him. And I gave him his tongue lashing. How dare you disrespect me as a teacher to bring this nonsense into class? I'm going to need to take this from you, right? And I took it from him, and about 2 weeks into it, he's like, yo, Mr. P, can I get my Game Boy back? And I was like, can I be honest with you? I want that Game Boy. He said, that's cool, Mr. P, just keep it. So I've had the Game Boy for about 25 years. Diego, what would you tell young people, either in college or high school, aspiring to accomplish their dream and wanting to know, is it worth it do I have to trade in my faith for chasing my dream, and how do I achieve it? And how do you what would you tell a 9th grade, 10th grade Diego from the position you're in right now? Look into that camera and kind of tell it with the peeps.
I'd say just you don't need to change your core values to chase the things that you want to chase, because if your core values align with the things that you want to chase, then it's going to happen for you. And if it doesn't, then it wasn't meant to be. But, I didn't have to sacrifice my faith to, chase my dreams to play football. In fact, I think they worked very well together to kind of get me to the point where I wanted to be. So just because, at the time, I was a super nerdy kid, was very proud of my academic success, never got to be in high school. That was always my goal. I didn't have to give that up to want to be a football player. I didn't have to look like the stereotypical jock. I didn't have to only care about sports, to also want to play at the Division I level. So just because two things don't necessarily seem like they coincide, it doesn't mean you have to give up being this to be this. Yeah. So I would just tell myself, you don't have to change who you are to do what you want to do. In terms of my personality, of course, you can always change to be a better person. You can grow. But you don't have to give up your core values and beliefs to chase the things you want to chase.
Yeah. Well, Diego, I really appreciate you taking time to come.
Of course, yeah.
I hope you know how proud I am of you.
Thanks,
and I love you. And you are a huge blessing to me, your mom, your siblings, and to a lot of people. Stay strong in the Lord and keep chasing your dreams. You guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to say a couple thank yous to Christian Podcast Central for being a partner with us. Check them out. Go to their website. You'll find a lot of great content. If you enjoyed the show, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. You'll get every show there as well some behind the scenes things. So subscribe. Be a part of what God is doing here. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and tune in next week for another great guest and episode here in the Yard.